Hello there, language detectives and dedicated listeners. A very big, warm welcome back to another fascinating episode of Idiom Insights. I'm Emma, and it's genuinely wonderful to be back with you, exploring the vibrant, sometimes confusing, but always rewarding nuances of the English language. Thanks for making us part of your learning journey.
And a huge hello from me too. Jack here, your enthusiastic companion in the world of words, geared up and ready to explore 4 more essential English idioms. Welcome back to Idiom Insights. You know, Emma, every time we prepare for an episode, I'm reminded just how much meaning can be packed into these short, often quirky phrases. They're like concentrated bursts of cultural understanding, aren't they? Far more than just vocabulary items.
That's so true, Jack. They carry history, attitude, and perspective within them. And today's selection is a perfect example, touching on the often delicate act of bringing someone back to reality, the useful skill of making generalizations, the contrasting approaches of following rules versus using flexibility, and the dynamics of power and control. Really digging into these helps learners move beyond simply translating words to actually feeling the intended meaning, which is crucial for truly fluent and effective communication. It allows for connection on a deeper level.
Couldn't agree more. It's about connecting with the heart of the language. So let's get ready to connect with today's idioms. On this insightful episode of Idiom Insights, we're going to carefully unpack these 4 common phrases. First, dealing with shattered illusions. Burst your bubble. Who enjoys having their bubble burst? We'll see. Next, making general statements. By and large, a handy phrase for talking about the big picture. Then, adhering strictly to rules. By the book. Is this always the best approach? Let's discuss. And finally, identifying who's in charge. Call the shots. Who holds the power in a given situation?
An excellent and varied selection, Jack. These idioms are really practical and pop up in all sorts of contexts. Before we puncture our first metaphorical bubble, just that very quick, friendly reminder from your Idiom Insights team. If you find these episodes useful for improving your English and want to make sure you receive all our future linguistic explorations, please do take just a second to hit that subscribe or follow button on your podcast player. It's the simplest way to keep learning with us.
Definitely. It means you won't miss a single idiom explanation. And if you're feeling particularly supportive today, giving us a like or leaving a positive rating is like sunshine to us. It really helps other passionate learners discover Idiom Insights and join our brilliant community. Okay, helpful hints delivered. Emma, let's talk about bubbles. What does it mean, metaphorically speaking, to burst someone's bubble? It sounds rather harsh.
It can feel harsh to the person whose bubble is being burst, Jack, even if the intention isn't malicious. To burst someone's bubble means to destroy their happy, optimistic, or perhaps naive belief, illusion, or mood by telling them an unwelcome truth or pointing out a harsh reality. Imagine someone happily inside a protective, perhaps unrealistic bubble of belief. Bursting it means confronting them with something that shatters that pleasant illusion and brings them abruptly back down to earth. It often causes disappointment or disillusionment.
Shattering illusions. That captures it perfectly. It's often done with the intention of being realistic or helpful. But the effect is disappointment because the person was quite happy in their perhaps unrealistic state. You might have to burst someone's bubble if they are overly excited about a guaranteed get-rich-quick scheme by pointing out the obvious flaws and risks they are ignoring. Or telling a friend who thinks their favorite celebrity is perfect about some well-known negative facts might be bursting their bubble about their idol. It's that moment when pleasant fantasy meets cold, hard reality. It's not always pleasant to do, is it?
No, it often requires sensitivity, Jack, because you're delivering news that will likely deflate someone's positive feelings. However, sometimes it's necessary to prevent them from making a mistake based on their unrealistic belief or to help them face reality. The idiom really focuses on that act of shattering the pleasant, often fragile illusion. It's a sudden puncture of happiness or optimism with a dose of reality. It can feel quite abrupt to the recipient.
Abrupt and deflating. A very clear explanation of a sometimes awkward social interaction. Let's hear how this happens between Mia and Mark, whose pleasant illusion is about to be punctured.
Mark, I am so incredibly excited. I just spent my lunch break browsing online holiday deals, and I found the most amazing offer for a week in that luxury 5-star resort in the Caribbean we were dreaming about.
The Ocean Palace Resort? Really? I thought that place was way out of our budget. What kind of deal did you find? Is it a last-minute offer?
Even better. It's an online competition. You just have to enter your email address and answer one simple question, and you could win an all-inclusive week for two. I've already entered. Can you imagine, Mark? A whole week of pure luxury, white sand beaches, cocktails by the pool, all for free. I'm practically packing my bags already.
Hang on a second, Mia. A competition where you just enter your email for a prize worth thousands of pounds? Does that sound entirely legitimate to you? Are you sure it wasn't one of those websites designed just to collect personal data?
What? No, it looked like a proper travel website. It had lovely pictures of the resort. Why would it be fake? Someone has to win, right? We could be the lucky ones.
Maybe. But the odds are usually astronomical for those kinds of competitions. And many of them are just data harvesting exercises or require you to sign up for endless marketing emails. Did you read the terms and conditions? Did it say who the promoter was? Honey, I hate to burst your bubble, but the chances of actually winning a free luxury holiday from a simple email entry are virtually zero. It's much more likely to be a marketing ploy than a genuine, amazing offer.
Oh, really? You think it's just fake? I was so excited, picturing us on the beach. Now I just feel a bit silly and disappointed.
Oh dear, Mia's excitement certainly deflated quickly there. She had built up a very optimistic picture based on the competition, planning the holiday in her mind.
Exactly. Mark, acting as the voice of realism, points out the high probability of the competition being illegitimate or having minuscule odds. He explicitly uses, "I hate to burst your bubble" to acknowledge he's delivering unwelcome news that will destroy her happy illusion, but does so to prevent further unrealistic expectations. It perfectly demonstrates the idiom in action, highlighting the shattering of optimistic belief with a dose of reality. Listeners, have you ever had your bubble burst about something you were excited about?
Now, let's move from shattering specific illusions to making broader statements. Our second idiom today is by and large. Jack, this phrase feels quite established, perhaps a little formal. What is its function in a sentence?
It does have a slightly more formal or considered feel than, say, mostly Emma, but it's still very common in both speech and writing. By and large means in general, on the whole, for the most part, or generally speaking. It's used to make a statement that is true overall, while implicitly acknowledging that there might be some specific exceptions or minor details that don't quite fit the general picture. It allows you to generalize without claiming absolute, exceptionless truth.
Generalizing while acknowledging exceptions, that's a key function. It adds a degree of accuracy and caution to a broad statement. For example, you might say, by and large, the students at this school are well-behaved and motivated. This suggests that while the vast majority fit this description, there might be a few individuals who don't, but they don't negate the overall truth of the statement. It avoids oversimplification. If you just said, all students are well-behaved, that's easily disproven by one counterexample. By and large is more robust.
That's a great way to put it. It makes the generalization more robust against exceptions. It allows for nuance. You could describe a holiday saying, by and large, the weather was fantastic, which implies most days were sunny, but maybe there was one afternoon shower, which doesn't spoil the overall positive assessment. Or discussing a complex book. By and large, I found the book fascinating, suggesting you enjoyed most of it, even if there were perhaps a few chapters you found slow or confusing. It qualifies the main point without needing to list every single detail. It's a very useful tool for summarizing complex realities accurately.
Absolutely. It's about presenting the main trend or the overall picture accurately. Let's hear Mia and Mark use it. What general observation are they making?
Mark, we had dinner at that new Italian restaurant downtown last night, La Trattoria, didn't we? What did you think of it overall?
La Trattoria. Well, it was okay. The atmosphere was quite nice, very bustling and lively, and the service was reasonably quick considering how busy they were. The waiter was friendly enough.
Yes, I agree on the atmosphere and service. But what about the food itself? My pasta dish was all right, but honestly a little bland. And your pizza looked slightly burnt around the edges, didn't it?
It was a bit charred, yes, and the base was slightly thicker than I prefer. And thinking about it, the starter we shared, the calamari, was quite oily too. It wasn't terrible food. Nothing was actually bad, but nothing was particularly impressive either.
Exactly, that's how I felt. Nothing really stood out as being delicious, so how would you sum it up? Would you recommend it?
Probably not enthusiastically. I'd say by and large, it was a pretty average dining experience. The atmosphere was good, the service fine, but the food itself was mostly mediocre. There might have been elements someone else enjoyed more, but overall, just average.
That sounds fair. By and large, average, not terrible, not great. I probably wouldn't rush back either.
That dialogue illustrates the idiom's function beautifully. Mark wants to give an overall assessment of the restaurant experience, which had mixed elements: good atmosphere, service, mediocre food.
Yes, instead of saying it was all average, which might not be true, as the atmosphere was good, or getting bogged down in detailing every dish, he uses by and large to give a general, qualified summary. By and large, it was a pretty average dining experience. This acknowledges the positive aspects while conveying that the predominant feeling or overall quality was just mediocre. It's an accurate generalization. Listeners of Idiom Insights, can you describe your town or neighborhood by and large?
Now, let's contrast making generalizations with adhering to specifics. Our third idiom today is by the book. Emma, this phrase clearly suggests rules and regulations. What does it mean to operate by the book?
It means operating exactly according to the established rules, procedures, laws, or official guidelines, Jack, without any deviation, exception, or use of personal discretion. When someone does things by the book, they are following the regulations precisely, often meticulously. It implies a commitment to adhering to the formal, correct way of doing things, leaving no room for shortcuts, bending the rules, or improvisation.
Strictly according to the rules, that's the essence. It suggests a focus on procedure and correctness. Now, this can have both positive and negative connotations, can it? On the one hand, doing things by the book ensures fairness, consistency, safety in regulated fields, and accountability. You might praise a police officer or an official for handling a situation strictly by the book, meaning they acted correctly and impartially according to procedure. It implies professionalism and adherence to standards.
Absolutely, Jack. Fairness and adherence to standards are often the positive side. However, it can also be used negatively or critically to imply someone is being overly rigid, inflexible, bureaucratic, or lacking in common sense or empathy. You might complain about a clerk who refuses to help with a simple request because of some minor procedural point, saying, "He's so frustrating, he insists on doing absolutely everything by the book, even when it makes no practical sense." In this context, it suggests frustrating inflexibility. So the value judgment often depends on the specific situation and whether adherence to the rules feels appropriate or obstructive.
That duality is really important. It's about adherence to rules, which can be good, fair, safe, or bad, rigid, obstructive, depending on the circumstances. The book itself is metaphorical, of course, representing the official code or regulations. Let's hear from Mia and Mark. How does doing things by the book feature in their conversation?
Mark, I had a rather frustrating experience trying to return that shirt I bought last week, the one that turned out to have a small flaw in the fabric.
Oh dear, didn't you have the receipt? Usually returns are quite straightforward if you have the receipt and it's within the return period.
I did have the receipt, and it was only 3 days after I bought it. But the shop assistant I dealt with, well, let's just say she was extremely thorough. She inspected the shirt minutely, checked the computer system for ages, asked me lots of questions about when exactly I noticed the flaw.
That sounds a bit excessive for a simple return with a receipt.
Tell me about it. Then she noticed I didn't have the original cardboard tag attached to the shirt anymore. I'd taken it off before I noticed the flaw. And she pointed to a tiny sentence in their returns policy pinned behind the counter, stating items must have original tags attached.
Seriously, even though it was clearly faulty and you had the receipt, that seems unreasonable. Did she refuse the return?
Initially, yes. She just kept quoting the policy, saying, "Sorry, the rules state original tags must be attached." She was doing absolutely everything strictly by the book, with zero flexibility or common sense, even though the item was faulty. Eventually, I had to ask for the manager, who thankfully was more reasonable and processed the refund immediately. But the first assistant was determined to stick rigidly by the book.
How frustrating. That sounds like a case where going strictly by the book was completely unhelpful and poor customer service. Some situations need a bit of discretion, surely.
You can really feel Mia's frustration there. The shop assistant's strict adherence to the minor rule about tags, even for a faulty item with a receipt, exemplifies the negative side of the idiom.
Exactly. Mia uses by the book twice to describe the assistant's rigid, inflexible approach, highlighting how it created an unnecessary obstacle and demonstrated poor judgment in that specific context. It clearly shows the meaning of sticking strictly to procedures, sometimes to an unhelpful degree. So, listeners, do you generally prefer people to operate by the book, or do you value flexibility more?
And finally, let's talk about power and control with our last idiom for today. Call the shots. Jack, this phrase definitely implies being in a position of authority. Who gets to call the shots?
Well, Emma, the person who calls the shots is the person who is in charge and makes the important decisions within a particular group, organization, or situation. They have the ultimate authority and control over what happens. It's about identifying where the real power lies. The origin is often debated, possibly coming from target practice, where someone calls the shot to be taken, or billiards talk pool, where a player might have to call which shot they intend to play. Regardless of origin, the meaning is clear: being the one who dictates the course of action.
Having the ultimate authority, that's key. It's not necessarily about having the official job title, although often it is the boss or leader who calls the shots. Sometimes, in a group or even a family, someone might call the shots informally through influence, expertise, or sheer force of personality, even if they aren't the designated leader. Identifying who truly calls the shots means understanding the real power dynamics at play, which might differ from the formal structure.
That's a crucial point about formal versus informal power. You might have a committee where there's an official chairperson, but everyone knows that a different, highly influential member is the one who really calls the shots behind the scenes, swaying opinions and guiding decisions. Or in a business partnership, one partner might handle the day-to-day operations, but the other, perhaps the main investor, is the one who ultimately calls the shots on major strategic decisions. It's about pinpointing the source of decisive power.
Exactly. Pinpointing the source of power. Let's listen to Mia and Mark's final dialogue. Who are they identifying as being truly in charge?
Mark, have you been following the news about that big merger between the two tech companies, Innovate Solutions and Future Tech?
Yes, a little bit. It seems like quite a significant deal, combining two major players. I saw they announced the new board structure, with CEOs from both companies having seats. It looks like a merger of equals on paper.
On paper, yes. But I was reading an analysis by a financial journalist who knows the industry well. She was arguing that, despite the appearance of equality, it's pretty clear who will actually be in control of the new combined company.
Oh, who does the journalist think will have the real power? I assumed it would be a shared leadership arrangement, at least initially.
Well, apparently, although the board structure looks balanced, the CEO of Innovate Solutions, Olivia Vance, managed to secure significantly more voting shares for her original shareholders in the merger deal, and the agreement gives her the final say on key appointments and strategic direction for the first 3 years.
So even though the Future Tech CEO is also on the board, Olivia Vance has the controlling shares and the deciding vote on crucial matters? That changes the picture considerably. It sounds like despite the talk of partnership, Olivia Vance will definitely be the one calling the shots.
That was exactly the journalist's conclusion. The formal structure might look like a merger of equals, but when it comes down to it, Olivia Vance is clearly positioned to call the shots and steer the new company in the direction she wants.
That conversation clearly illustrates how the idiom helps identify the real locus of power, even when the surface appearance suggests otherwise.
Precisely. They discuss the formal structure versus the underlying reality revealed by voting shares and decision-making authority. Mark concludes that Olivia Vance will be the one calling the shots, accurately using the idiom to pinpoint who holds the ultimate decisive power in the new company, regardless of titles. Listeners of Idiom Insights, in your workplace or another group setting, is it always clear who calls the shots?
And with that insight into power dynamics, we wrap up another fascinating exploration of English idioms. 4 more phrases unpacked and examined. Let's quickly recap the idioms we've covered today.
It's been another really useful session. Today on Idiom Insights, we explored burst your bubble, to destroy someone's happy illusion or optimism with unwelcome reality. By and large, in general, on the whole, for the most part. By the book. Strictly according to the rules or procedures, inflexibly. Call the shots. To be in charge and make the important decisions. To have authority.
Excellent. We sincerely hope that our detailed discussions today Going deeper into the nuances and implications of these phrases have helped solidify your understanding and confidence. Remember, appreciating the subtlety is key to mastering idioms.
Absolutely. Keep noticing how these idioms are used in context, in movies, news, conversations. And if you found today's deep dive helpful, we would be incredibly grateful if you could take just a moment to leave us a like, a rating, or perhaps a short positive review. It truly helps us continue our work.
And please make sure you're subscribed or following Idiom Insights. It's the simplest way to ensure you join us for every new episode as we continue our journey through the rich and often surprising landscape of the English language. We love having you here.
We really do. Thank you for lending us your ears today. Until next time, keep learning with enthusiasm, practice with confidence, and enjoy the process. Goodbye for now.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Stay safe, and maybe try calling the shots on your own language learning plan.